Let's first write the CSS code related to these pages. Go to the style.css page on the left side panel and open body curly brackets from the first line. After entering between the brackets, I come to the second line. Now let's type the CSS code needed to change the font of this body part here. It is typed as font-family:arial:. To change the size of the letters, it is typed as font-size:18px:, and now I type as margin:0, in the fourth line to change the margin. Now let's give the necessary codes to change the margin of the sections included in these pages. Section open curly bracket from the sixth line. After entering between the curly brackets, I come to the seventh line. In this line, it is given as margin:10px:. Since the H1 and H2 tags are used to apply titles to this web page, so let's create the style elements related to these titles. Let's use the required code to change the font size of the H1 tag. For that, I type H1 in the 9th line and open curly brackets. Now this is the 10th line. It is typed as text-align::center::. Now the alignment of the letters of H1 title is done. Now let's create the common styles for both H1 and H2 titles. Here H1, enter, type as H2 and open curly brackets. Now in the 14th line, write the code called color::01193D:, to change the color of the letters. Now let's provide the required code to show that no text formatting is applied to these hyperlinks, as well as the color of the hyperlinks applied to these web pages. The changes related to these hyperlinks are ended from the curly brackets in the 19th line. Now I am creating the ID related to the picture that will be added as the banner on these web pages. Type as #banner and open curly brackets. Now to change the size of this picture, it is typed as width:100%:. It is given as margin:0%:, the margin around it. Now we are done with the changes related to this picture. Since these pages are connected to each other, I will make a navigation bar for us to connect with this. Let's make the styles of the navigation bar now. Since we use the navigation bar for all these web pages that we create, I use an ID. Type as #nav-bar on the 24th line and open curly brackets. Now to change the background color of this navigation bar in the 25th line, it is given as :#01193D:. Now let's go to the 26th row. In this row, I change the font color to white. Now adjust the distance between the letters of the next line and the corresponding margin as padding:10px:. The margin around the 28th line is made as margin:0. Align the letters in the navigation bar. It is typed as text-align::center::, on the 29th line. Now we have finished making the styles related to the navigation bar. Now we create an ID called #facts. Since we want to use this ID when entering paragraphs, it is given as padding:10px:, in the 32nd line. Now come to the 33rd line, and to adjust the thickness and the color of the border, it is given as border:3px solid #E7E7E7 : To change the size of the section, this section is typed as width:430px:. Now we have finished preparing this facts ID. Now let's enter some more IDs. An ID needed to enter the data on the Contact Us page is created in the 36th line as contact as #contact-us. Now open curly brackets. Between that, adjust the width of the part like this in the 37th line. Now in the 38th line, the code required to align the letters is given. This section ends with the 39th line. Now we create an ID for the gallery page called #gallery-us in the 40th line. Now open curly brackets. Between that, adjust the width of the section in the 41st line in this way. Now the margin in the 42nd line is adjusted in this way. Since the auto is given, the size of the margin is decided by the browser when we open the web page. Let's create a class required for a form. .form-div, open curly brackets in the 44th line, and now the code needed to align the letters is given in this way in the 45th line. Now in the 46th line, the code is adjusted so that the size of the section where the class is applied is fixed to the size of the relevant content. Now let's create an input element. We set the required styles when entering the input tag. In the 48th line, input open curly brackets. Between that, it is given as padding :20px semicolon in the 49th line. Now the width of the 50th row is given as pixel 400. It is given that there is no border in the 51st line. Now the thickness and the color of the lower border is changed in this way. Now we create another class for a button in the form. Now type as .form button in the 54th line, open curly brackets and come down between that and make the necessary changes in the button in these lines. The color of the button, the color of the letter and the distance between the letters and the margin are made in this way. This ID is created for the last part of the web page. In the 59th line, it is typed as #footer open curly brackets. Come to the 60th line, use text-align center semicolon to align the letters included in the footer section. Now come to the next line and change the color of the letters. Now I change the background color to from the 62nd line. Now we are going to write the last style of our style sheet. From the 64th line, I create a class called nav. I type as padding :0 100px semicolon init. The space between the text and the margin is changed by this. Since two values are given here, the first value is taken as the top and bottom value. The second value is taken as the right and left value. Now we have finished making the styles for these web pages.